Welcome. I'm truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 1347, and the world outside is a stark, unforgiving canvas. You wake up in the middle of a medieval winter, not in your own bed, but on a floor. Cold stone pressing hard against your ribs. An acrid, clinging smell assaults your nostrils immediately, thick and pervasive. It's the sharp, metallic tang of snuffed tallow mixed with something far fouler, the unmistakable, gut-wrenching stench of open sewers, a putrid blend of human waste, decay, and stagnant water. You try to push yourself up, but your muscles protest, stiff and aching. The air is heavy, damp, and carries a chill that seems to seep directly into your bones, despite the coarse wool cloak you find wrapped around you. Your eyes struggle to adjust to the oppressive gloom. A sliver of weak gray light filters in from somewhere high above, painting faint patterns on the rough-hewn stone walls. Dust motes dance lazily in its meager beam, illuminated like tiny forgotten stars in the perpetual twilight of this space. You can feel the gritty texture of the floor beneath your outstretched hand, rough and uneven, with sharp pebbles digging into your palm. A persistent drip, drip, drip echoes nearby, amplified by the close confines, suggesting water pooling somewhere in the shadows. Is it rain, or something more sinister seeping through the cracked foundations? You can't quite tell. Your tongue feels like sandpaper, a parched desert, and the urge to swallow only exacerbates the dryness. You try to call out, but only a guttural croak escapes your lips, swallowed by the thick air. Panic begins to prickle at the back of your neck. Where are you? How did you get here? The last thing you remember is the biting wind whipping through the market square, the distant cries of vendors, and then nothing. An empty void. You manage to push yourself onto your knees, your head swimming for a moment as blood rushes away. Your fingers brush against a cold, slick, metallic surface, ridged and wrong. You flinch, pulling your hand back sharply, a shiver running down your spine. It feels ancient, coated in a thin layer of grime. The air thickens again, carrying a new, sickly sweet undertone beneath the sewage. The cloying scent of unwashed bodies and something else, something metallic and coppery that catches in your throat. You glance around, straining your eyes in the dimness. Shapes begin to coalesce from the shadows. Indistinct forms, piles of what might be rags or worse. A low, scuttling sound echoes from a dark corner. A brief, frantic movement, and then silence. You hold your breath, your heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. Every nerve ending is alive, hyper-aware. You can feel the blood thrumming in your ears, a silent symphony of dread. You draw your knees closer, making yourself small, trying to disappear into the oppressive darkness that surrounds you. The world outside feels distant, impossible, replaced by this chilling reality of stone, damp, and darkness. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Share in the comments. You realize, as you huddle in the cold, that the human body, despite its fragility, possesses an astonishing capacity for both fear and survival. It's a delicate balance, pushed to its limits when faced with the unknown, yet always seeking a way through, a flicker of light in the deepest dark. The lingering stench of tallow and open sewers seems to cling even tighter now, a foul shroud around you. The persistent drip, drip, drip from the shadows continues its slow, maddening rhythm, each drop an echo in the vast, cold silence. Your heart still pounds, a frantic drum against your ribs, a constant reminder of the unseen life that scuttles and lurks in this oppressive gloom. You try to control your breathing, to slow its ragged pace, fearing that even the sound of your own anxious gasps could betray your hidden presence. Then, a new sound, cutting through the oppressive quiet. Distant, mournful, and drawn out. The low, resonant blare of a watchman's horn. It echoes off the unseen walls. A wavering lament carried on the frigid air. For a fleeting second, a flicker of something akin to hope ignites within you. A signal. A sign of life, of order, of the world beyond this damp, putrid confinement. But the sound is so far away, so muffled by stone and shadow, that it quickly fades, swallowed by the vast, indifferent darkness. It leaves behind only a deeper sense of isolation. And then, almost immediately after the horn's last echo dies, another sound begins to intrude. Faint at first, a subtle scrape and thud, but growing steadily clearer. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, uneven. They sound like well-worn boots on rough stone, echoing with an unnerving resonance in the close confines. Each step sends a fresh jolt of adrenaline through your veins. You press yourself even flatter against the grimy wall, trying to become one with the cold, damp stone, willing yourself invisible. Your eyes dart frantically through the impenetrable darkness, desperate to perceive even the slightest shift in the shadows. The footsteps grow louder, closer, each one a hammer blow against the fragile shield of your composure. You can almost feel the vibrations through the floor. They seem to approach from the direction of that weak, gray light you glimpsed earlier. Every muscle in your body tenses, coiled, and rigid. You hold your breath, a burning ache growing in your chest, convinced that any sound, any movement, will give you away. The air, already thick with decay, seems to solidify, pressing in on you, making it impossible to draw breath. Your mind races, trying to conjure a reason for these footsteps, a benign explanation, but only dread fills the void. The cadence changes slightly, an irregular shuffle that suggests a limping gait, or perhaps the dragging of something heavy. It's coming right for your hiding place. You can almost hear the soft, ragged breathing that accompanies the heavy steps, a breath that doesn't feel like your own. Then, a sudden, horrifying pause. The footsteps stop. Complete silence descends once more, broken only by the frantic pounding of your own heart against your eardrums. You can feel a cold sweat break out on your skin, prickling through your cloak. An eternity stretches, suspended in that terrible stillness. Just as you feel you might shatter from the tension, the footsteps resume. They are still close, agonizingly so, but they continue past, receding slowly, steadily. The heavy thudding begins to fade, swallowed by the gloom from which it emerged. You remain frozen, breath still held, until the last faint echo has completely vanished. Only then do you dare to slowly exhale, a shuddering breath that scrapes against your dry throat. You are alone again, but the silence now feels heavier, more ominous than before. The fear of what those footsteps might have belonged to, what they might have been seeking, now shadows every corner of this cold, forgotten place. You realize that true solitude isn't just about being alone. It's about the suffocating weight of being utterly unheard, unseen, and knowing that danger can lurk in the space between heartbeats. The chilling dampness of the stone is a constant companion against your back, a reminder of the prison you found yourself in moments ago. Now, a fresh, sharp scent cuts through the lingering staleness of decay. The unmistakable, earthy perfume of wet soil and decaying leaves. You feel the cold, rough bark of an oak pressing into your cheek, a welcome change from the unforgiving stone. Your fingers, still numb, curl around the damp, mossy ground. You are no longer within those suffocating walls. You find yourself suddenly in a dense forest, the ancient trees towering above, their skeletal branches clawing at a sky painted in shades of bruised indigo. Above, a full moon, swollen and impossibly bright, hangs like a watchful eye, casting long, twisted shadows that dance and writhe with every whisper of the wind. This is the poacher's moon, its deceptive brilliance illuminating just enough to lure, just enough to betray. A prickle of cold air whispers across your exposed skin, carrying with it the faint, sweet-sour scent of distant wood smoke, quickly overshadowed by the wilder, greener aromas of damp earth and pine needles. Your eyes, still adjusting to the perpetual dimness, struggle to make sense of the tangled undergrowth around you. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden shape, every rustle of leaves, a lurking presence. The only sound, initially, is the gentle sighing of the wind through the bare branches, a melancholic lullaby. You try to push yourself up, your limbs still stiff from the unknown ordeal, your muscles screaming in protest. A dull ache throbs in your head, a persistent drumbeat behind your eyes. As you gingerly shift your weight, a sharp, sudden crack pierces the stillness. It's the distinct, brittle snap of a twig, unnaturally loud in the vast quiet of the woods. It sounds close, too close. Your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic bird trapped in your chest. You freeze, every nerve ending screaming. You feel the sharp edges of a fallen branch digging into your hip, but you don't move. You hold your breath, straining your ears, trying to locate the source of that sound, trying to understand what or who might be out there with you in this vast, hungry darkness. The woods seem to hold their breath alongside you. The wind dies down, the rustling of leaves ceasing, as if the very forest itself is listening. The moonlight, so bright a moment ago, now seems to mock you, revealing just enough of the menacing silhouettes to deepen the sense of vulnerability, but not enough to show you what you fear. You can feel the heavy, cold presence of the night closing in around you, pressing down, stifling any impulse to move, to run, to even breathe too deeply. Your pulse thrums wildly in your temples. Every distant hoot of an owl, every distant rustle of unseen creatures, now sounds like a deliberate, ominous approach. You are acutely aware of the vulnerability of your body, exposed and small beneath the indifferent gaze of the poacher's moon. You realize that even the most beautiful and wild places can harbor a profound sense of terror, especially when the light, meant to guide, only serves to highlight the hidden threats. The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves still fills your nostrils, but now there's a new, metallic tang underlying it, a faint, unsettling hint of something like rusty iron. The forest air, once just cold, now feels sharp, almost hostile, pricking at your skin. Your heart, which had just begun to calm after the snapping twig, now races again. You're no longer just hearing the wind. You're hearing something else entirely. A low, guttural growl rumbles through the silence, deep and unsettling, like stones grinding against each other. It's too large, too powerful, to be a simple badger or fox. Your blood runs cold. You press yourself even tighter against the rough bark of the oak, trying to merge with its ancient trunk, trying to disappear. The full, watchful moon above seems to intensify its gaze, illuminating the clearing just enough to show you the danger without allowing escape. Then, a sudden, desperate squeal tears through the night, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. It's quickly cut short, replaced by a wet, tearing sound, followed by frantic thrashing in the undergrowth. A rabbit. You know it instinctively. And something larger, far more predatory, has just claimed its iron price. The air thickens with the raw, visceral scent of fresh blood, hot and unmistakable, mixing horribly with the earthy dampness of the woods. You can almost taste it on your tongue. A shadow detaches itself from the deeper darkness, moving with a fluid, terrifying grace. It's too big for a wolf, its silhouette hulking, and strangely upright in the moonlight. You catch a glimpse of eyes, twin pinpricks of reflected light, burning with an unholy intensity in the gloom. It's an animal, yes, but not like any you've ever seen. Its movements are too deliberate, too knowing. It pauses, head cocked slightly, as if listening, smelling the air, discerning every subtle shift. You can hear its heavy, ragged breathing now, closer than you could have imagined, a harsh, rasping sound. You are utterly still, frozen in a primal terror that clamps down on your throat, stealing your breath. You feel the frantic pulse in your neck, the icy sweat on your forehead, the rustling of leaves, the crunch of bones. Faint, sickening sounds reach your ears from the direction of the creature. It's feeding, and it's dangerously close. You can barely move a muscle, your limbs locked in fear. Every shadow seems to deepen, to take on menacing forms, to stretch towards you with unseen claws. You sense, rather than see, its head lift again, those burning eyes sweeping the forest, as if sensing your terrified presence. It's not just a hunter. It feels like an intelligent, malevolent force. The cold, stark reality of the medieval night presses in, unforgiving and brutal. The concept of an iron price for a stolen rabbit transforms from a simple legal term into something far more visceral. A life paid for with blood and terror in the silent, watchful woods. You realize with a chilling certainty that you are not just an observer. You are now part of the hunt. You realize that fear, in its purest form, strips away all pretense, leaving you with nothing but the raw, vulnerable instinct to survive. A stark reminder of humanity's precarious place in the natural and unnatural order of things. A searing wave of heat washes over you, stinging your eyes and drawing a sharp, involuntary gasp. It's an intense, moist heat, far beyond the warmth of a simple fire, thick with the smell of wet wood smoke and something else. Something vaguely organic like scorched meat, yet acrid and metallic. You feel the rough, unyielding press of cold, damp stone beneath your hands. A jarring contrast to the oppressive warmth around you. Your bare feet are planted on a floor that feels strangely uneven, a mix of packed earth and scattered straw, already warm and slightly damp. Your eyes, still struggling to adjust, are met with a hazy, flickering orange glow that dominates the scene. A massive cauldron, perhaps 6 feet across, squats menacingly over a roaring fire, its iron belly gleaming with a malevolent sheen. Thick plumes of steam billow upwards, swirling and dancing, carrying the sickening heavy aroma that now makes your stomach churn. You can see the water within, roiling and churning, a violent, bubbling inferno. It's a trial by boiling water, you realize with a sickening jolt, a brutal medieval justice. You can feel the intense radiant heat on your face, on your exposed skin, and the air around you vibrates with the raw energy of the inferno. The crackle of the burning wood is loud, almost deafening, punctuated by the furious hiss of the boiling water. Around the cauldron, grim-faced villagers are gathered, their faces lit by the firelight, distorted into grotesque masks of fear and morbid curiosity. You can feel their collective breath, shallow and nervous, mingling with the heavy steam. They stand in a hushed semicircle, their eyes fixed on the bubbling horror. A figure stands at the edge of the cauldron, a man, his face pale and contorted in agony and fear. You can't make out details through the steam, but his body language speaks volumes. He's resisting, being held by two burly guards, their movements stiff, almost reluctant. As you watch, transfixed, they force his hand, slowly, agonizingly, towards the churning water. A collective gasp rises from the onlookers. You want to scream, to look away, but your gaze is locked, horrified. Then, it happens. His hand, white and vulnerable, touches the surface of the boiling water. A piercing, inhuman shriek tears through the air, chilling you to your very core. The raw, horrifying sound is immediately followed by a sickening, wet sizzle, the unmistakable sound of flesh meeting superheated liquid. A plume of steam, darker and thicker, erupts upwards, carrying with it a new, stomach-turning smell. The cooked, burnt odor of human skin. You feel a wave of nausea wash over you, your knees threatening to buckle. The man's body convulses, his muffled cries swallowed by the roar of the fire and the hiss of the water. The air itself feels thick with pain and the unbearable truth of what is happening. You realize, with a profound sense of horror, that true judgment is not always just, and the price of innocence, or guilt, can be a brutal, visceral agony that scars not just the body, but the soul of all who witness it. The smell of seared flesh still burns in your nostrils, a memory far too vivid and sickening. The oppressive heat from the cauldron seems to cling to your skin, even as the cold, damp stone beneath your hands tries to ground you. The air remains heavy, thick with the stench of human suffering and the lingering scent of scorching. The raw, guttural screams have faded, leaving behind an unbearable, ringing silence that vibrates with unspoken terror. The man, his hand now visibly charred and horrifyingly disfigured, collapses to the ground, no longer resisting. His body twitches, a pathetic heap of agony and broken will. The two guards release him, their faces now grim, unreadable masks. One of them, a heavy-set man with a thick beard, quickly averts his gaze from the victim, instead looking towards the crowd with a hardened, almost defiant expression. You can feel the collective sigh that ripples through the assembled villagers, a mix of horror, relief, and a strange, unsettling satisfaction. They whisper amongst themselves, hushed murmurs that barely disturb the air. their eyes wide and morbidly fixed on the fallen man. A gaunt, elderly priest, his face severe and etched with shadows, steps forward. He raises a hand, demanding silence, and the whispers instantly cease. The only sounds left are the furious gurgle of the boiling water and the ragged, shallow gasps of the tortured man. The priest's voice, when it comes, is a low, booming monotone, filled with righteous authority. He speaks of sin, of judgment, of God's divine will revealed through the ordeal. He explains that if the hand begins to heal cleanly within 3 days, it is a sign of innocence. If not, then God has deemed him guilty. But as the words hang in the air, a chilling realization washes over you. There is no healing touch, no miraculous intervention, only the searing, unadulterated agony of a man whose flesh has been boiled from his bones. You watch the man on the ground, his eyes wide and vacant, staring up at the smoke-filled rafters, tears silently tracing paths through the grime on his cheeks. He isn't listening to the priest's pronouncements. He is lost in his own private hell. You feel a profound chill, colder than any winter wind, as you realize the terrible truth. God's judgment here isn't a miraculous sign or a divine intervention. It is the utter, deafening silence in response to a plea, the horrifying absence of mercy in the face of absolute pain. The crowd disperses slowly, their faces a mixture of solemnity and a subtle, disturbing thrill. You see the subtle glances exchanged, the quick shivers that run through their bodies. They have witnessed divine justice, or at least what passes for it in these grim times. But for you, the scene leaves an indelible stain, a deep, unsettling question mark etched into your soul. The terrible quiet that follows the trial feels heavier than any roar, more damning than any accusation. It is the sound of an indifferent heaven, of a justice meted out without a whisper of compassion. You realize that sometimes the most profound and terrifying judgment isn't a fiery pronouncement, but the chilling, absolute silence from the heavens, leaving mortals to face their own cruelties and their own desperate interpretations of truth. A dry, acrid taste coats your tongue, sharp and gritty, like you've swallowed a mouthful of fine ash. It's accompanied by a pervasive smell of burnt wood, old and cold, mixed with the faint, unsettling sweetness of decaying autumn leaves. You feel the rough, cool texture of a weather-beaten wooden post against your back, its surface scarred by time and, perhaps, fire. The air itself is thin and brisk, carrying a distinct chill that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. You are standing in a small, deserted village square under a sky painted in deep, bruised purples and oranges, the last vestiges of a dying sun. The light is fading fast, plunging the world into a premature twilight. It's Samhain's Eve, a night when the veil between worlds is said to thin, when spirits walk and old fears stir. A skeletal tree, stripped bare of its leaves, stands starkly silhouetted against the horizon, its branches reaching like bony fingers towards the darkening heavens. The ground beneath your worn boots is hard-packed earth, scattered with a sparse, frost-nipped grass that crunches softly with every subtle shift of your weight. Shadows lengthen, stretching like grasping claws from the silent, empty cottages that surround the square. Their windows are black, vacant eyes, staring out into the growing gloom. There's no sign of life, no movement, just the haunting absence of sound. The silence here is heavy, thick with anticipation, as if the very air holds its breath. You can hear the distant, mournful howl of a lone wolf, a primal lament that seems to underscore the profound isolation of this place. It's a sound that makes the small hairs on your neck rise. A cold breeze picks up, swirling around the square, kicking up eddies of dust and dried leaves that dance like phantom figures. The taste of ash on your tongue intensifies, bitter and metallic. A grim reminder of something ancient, something burnt away long ago. Your eyes scan the deserted square, searching for any flicker of warmth, any sign of human presence. But there is nothing. Just the encroaching darkness, the skeletal trees, and the overwhelming sense of being utterly alone on a night when loneliness feels like an invitation. The chill begins to seep deeper, a cold that isn't just from the air but from the unsettling quiet, from the unspoken promise of what this night might bring. Every creak of an old door in the wind, every rustle of leaves, feels like a deliberate movement, a subtle approach. You feel a prickle of unease, a primal instinct that whispers of something ancient and malevolent stirring in the fading light. You realize that on nights like these, when the world holds its breath, it's not the grand terrors that truly unnerve you, but the quiet, persistent whispers of the past, the taste of forgotten fires, and the chilling certainty that you are never truly alone. The bitter chill of Samhain's Eve still bites, but now a potent, almost hypnotic warmth begins to radiate towards you. The distinct smell of burning peat and damp kindling replaces the lingering ash on your tongue, filling your senses with its raw, earthy perfume. You feel the jostle of bodies around you, a slow, communal press forward, as if drawn by an invisible current. Your feet move almost involuntarily across the hard-packed earth, a strange weightlessness settling over your limbs. Before you, dominating the center of the square, a colossal bonfire roars, a hungry beast of flame devouring timber. Its towering inferno casts wild, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink, twisting the familiar forms of the empty cottages into monstrous fleeting shapes. The heat on your face is intense, a fiery caress that battles the relentless cold. The crackle and pop of burning wood are almost deafening, a raw, primal sound that drowns out the faint murmurs of the villagers gathered in a tight circle, their faces upturned, eyes wide and unblinking, reflecting the orange glow like polished stones. As you stare into the heart of the blaze, the smoke, thick and acrid, begins to swirl in mesmerizing patterns. You squint against the heat and the flickering light, trying to make sense of the volatile shapes. And then you see them. Not real, not truly there, but undeniably present. Faces. Spectral visages, shifting and reforming within the swirling smoke and dancing flames. Old, gaunt faces with hollow eyes. Young faces contorted in silent screams. Forgotten faces from generations past. Or perhaps, faces yet to come. They appear and disappear in the blink of an eye, just at the edge of perception, their ephemeral forms seeming to beckon, to whisper secrets only the wind can carry. A tremor runs through the crowd. You feel it, a shared shiver, a communal recognition of the thinning veil. The air around you seems to vibrate, taut and charged. The distant sounds of the night, an owl's hoot, the rustle of leaves, become distorted, echoing strangely, as if coming from another realm. You reach out a hand, instinctively towards one of the fleeting visages, a desperate, irrational urge to grasp at the impossible. The heat scorches your skin, forcing you to retract it sharply. But the image of the face, haunting and sorrowful, remains burned into your mind. The bonfire consumes, but it also reveals, tearing at the fabric of the familiar. You stand amidst the living, but feel surrounded by the departed, their spectral presence almost palpable in the charged air. This isn't just a fire, it's a gateway, a window into something ancient and terrifying, a night when the world of the dead reaches out, not with malice, but with a profound, aching presence. You realize that on a night when the veil is thinnest, the greatest horror isn't always what attacks you, but what you see reflected from a world beyond, revealing the fragile boundary between what is and what was, between the living and the echoing presence of the dead. A sudden, almost painful chill replaces the warmth of the bonfire, a cold that sinks deep into your bones, bringing with it the damp, earthy scent of a newly turned grave, mixed with something else, a faint, sickly sweet odor that makes your stomach clench. You feel the rough, splintered edge of a wooden cart pressing into your back, its surface cold and gritty with fine dirt. The air around you is heavy, thick with unspoken dread. You are standing at the muddy edge of a narrow, winding track, shrouded by the skeletal trees of a leafless forest. The sky above is a heavy overcast gray promising rain, and the last slivers of weak daylight are quickly fading, surrendering to the encroaching gloom. The ground beneath your feet is soft and yielding, a boggy mix of mud and dead leaves that suck at your worn shoes with each tentative shift of weight. A profound silence hangs over everything, broken only by the distant, mournful caw of a crow, a sound that feels like a harbinger of ill tidings. You listen intently, every nerve ending alert, your breath catching in your throat. This silence isn't peaceful. It's a tense, watchful quiet, pregnant with foreboding. The damp air seems to thicken around you, muffling sound, amplifying your own frantic heartbeat. And then it comes, faint at first, a tiny, metallic jingle, barely audible above the drumming of your own pulse. Then clearer, a sharp, insistent clapper of metal on metal, drawing closer with each beat. It's the unmistakable sound of a leper's bell, a sound that, in this age, brings with it a terror far deeper than any beast or ghost. It signals disease, contagion, and a profound, irreversible ostracization. Every village teaches its children to freeze, to hide, to pray when that sound approaches. Your blood runs cold. Your breath hitches. You can feel the immediate, panicked reaction in your own body, the instinct to flee, to find cover, to disappear from sight. You press yourself harder against the rough wood of the cart, trying to become invisible, to make yourself smaller than small. The bell's jingle grows steadily louder, its rhythm slow and deliberate, each ring a toll of impending dread. You can hear the drag of slow, shuffling footsteps accompanying the bell now, soft but insistent on the muddy track. You crane your neck, straining your eyes through the dim, fading light, desperate to glimpse the source of the sound, even as every instinct screams at you not to. The sickly sweet odor grows stronger, a cloying, unsettling presence. The air itself feels infected, heavy with the weight of unspeakable suffering and the fear it inspires. The sound of that bell is not just a warning. It's a mournful dirge, a desperate plea, and a terrifying harbinger all at once. It's the sound of a world that fears its own. You realize that sometimes the greatest horrors aren't spectral apparitions or roaring beasts, but the very real, slow-moving suffering of humanity, rendered monstrous by fear and ignorance, forever marked by the lonely, insistent ring of a bell. The pervasive damp chill of the track still sinks into your bones, and the faint, sickly sweet scent that accompanies the leper's bell still prickles in your nostrils. Your breath hitches, held captive by a potent mix of fear and an almost unbearable curiosity. You feel the rough, splintered wood of the cart pressing into your back, offering little comfort, but serving as your desperate anchor in this terrifying moment. The muddy ground beneath your feet feels cold and unstable. The insistent jingle of the bell grows closer, its rhythm slow, deliberate, each metallic clang reverberating through the heavy gray air. You can distinctly hear the dragging, uneven footsteps now, a scuff and then a slide, a constant reminder of the physical burden carried by its owner. You press yourself even tighter against the cart, trying to disappear into the fading light, trying to make yourself unseen, unheard. Then, a figure emerges from the gloom, slowly, almost reluctantly. A solitary individual, wrapped in a coarse, dark cloak, its hood drawn low to obscure their face. In their gloved hand, hanging limply, is the small brass bell, its simple design carrying such immense weight. You notice, with a chilling clarity, the 6-foot stick they carry in their other hand, held out before them like a grim divining rod. It's not a weapon, you realize with a sudden pang of understanding. It's a measure, a mandated distance, 6 feet, separating them from all of humanity. Your gaze locks onto the figure, even as you try to shrink away. You can't make out their features, but the way their head is bowed, the heavy slump of their shoulders, speaks of a profound, crushing weariness. There is no anger, no malice, just an unbearable, all-encompassing sorrow in their posture. The air around them feels different, not just cold, but heavy with the weight of isolation, of perpetual exile. The sickly sweet odor is strongest around them, a ghostly shroud. They don't look up, they don't make eye contact. Their eyes, hidden beneath the cowl, are fixed on the muddy path ahead, as if the very act of existing in the world is a burdensome, solitary journey. You can feel the prickle of tears in your own eyes, a response to the raw, visceral tragedy unfolding before you. This isn't horror born of sudden violence, but of prolonged, agonizing loneliness. A life lived perpetually 6 feet from humanity, never to touch, never to be touched, marked by the lonely, insistent ring of a bell. The figure shuffles past your hiding place, agonizingly close, yet impossibly distant. The jingle of the bell begins to fade, receding into the gloom, growing fainter and fainter until it is swallowed once more by the heavy silence of the forest. You remain pressed against the cart, trembling, a profound sadness settling deep in your chest. The chill isn't just external anymore. It's an internal frost, a stark realization of the depths of human isolation. You realize that true horror isn't always about what terrifies the body, but what utterly devastates the soul, reminding us that sometimes the cruelest fate is not death, but a life condemned to an unbearable, perpetual distance from connection. A cloying, sickly sweet scent assaults your senses, far more potent and disturbing than anything you've encountered before. It's like overripe fruit mixed with something metallic, something putrid, and a hint of burning herbs, all swirling together in a nauseating cocktail. You feel the cold, rough texture of a cobblestone street beneath your worn shoes, uneven and slick with a thin layer of grime. The air is heavy, still, and carries a profound, unsettling silence. You are standing in a narrow, deserted alleyway flanked by tall, leaning timber-framed houses. The sky above is a moonless, starless black, pressing down like a suffocating blanket. Only a few flickering, distant torches from the main thoroughfare cast weak, wavering light into this shadowed lane. The chill here isn't just from the night. It's a penetrating cold that seems to emanate from the very stone and wood, a cold born of dread. A low, incessant buzzing sound, faint but insistent, drifts to your ears. It's the sound of flies, you realize, with a sickening lurch, a chorus of unseen insects drawn to something foul. Your breath catches in your throat. Every shadow seems to deepen, to coil and writhe, whispering unseen horrors. You glance around, your eyes straining in the oppressive darkness, trying to pierce the gloom. Then, you see it. On a heavy oak door, set deep within a recessed archway, a stark, angry red cross has been painted. Large, crude, unmistakable, your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic bird of ill omen. The symbol, in this year of 1347, is universally understood. Plague. This house is infected. It is a death sentence, sealed and broadcast for all to see. The sickly sweet scent, you now realize with a horrifying clarity, is coming directly from behind that door. It's the smell of disease, of fevered bodies, of unchecked decay, of desperate attempts to fumigate with acrid herbs, all failing. It's the smell of death, slow and agonizing, seeping through the cracks in the wood, staining the very air of the alleyway. You can almost feel the presence of the suffering inside, a palpable weight behind that marked door. You take an involuntary step back, your stomach churning, a wave of nausea washing over you. Every nerve ending screams at you to flee, to run from this place. But you are transfixed, drawn to the terrible reality of the Red Cross, a silent testament to the invisible enemy that stalks the land. You can feel the sweat prickle on your skin despite the cold. A chilling realization that the disease isn't just a distant rumor. It's a silent, unseen predator lurking just beyond a marked door. The buzzing of the flies intensifies for a moment, a sinister, tiny symphony. You realize that true fear isn't always a monstrous creature, but often an unseen, insidious force that creeps silently, marked only by a simple symbol and a smell that promises an agonizing, inevitable end. The sickly sweet stench of plague hangs heavy in the air, a suffocating blanket that now seems to coat the back of your throat. The pervasive cold of the alleyway feels deeper, a chill that gnaws at your very core, as if it's absorbed the pervasive dread of the Red Cross door. You feel the rough, damp cobblestones beneath your feet, slippery and treacherous, your worn shoes offering little grip. The oppressive silence that had held the alleyway captive is now broken by a new, horrifying sound. A low, mournful bell begins to toll in the distance, a slow, deliberate ding-dong, ding-dong, that sends a shiver of ice straight down your spine. It's not the sharp jingle of the leper's bell, but a deeper, heavier clang, unmistakably the toll of the death cart. The body collector's bell. Its sound is accompanied by the heavy, creaking groan of wooden wheels on cobblestones, a sound that promises only sorrow and finality. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, desperate drum. You press yourself further into the shadows, a primal instinct to hide taking over. Your eyes dart wildly through the gloom, straining to catch a glimpse of the approaching terror. The sickly sweet odor from the plague house intensifies, mixing with a new, even more potent stench. The unmistakable smell of unwashed bodies, of decay, and of the sour tang of death itself. It makes your stomach churn, threatening to rise. The mournful tolling grows louder, the creaking of the cart more pronounced. You can feel the vibrations through the ground, a subtle tremor that mirrors the tremor in your own hands. Then, a hulking silhouette rounds the distant corner of the alley, drawn by the Red Cross door like a morbid vulture. It's a crude wooden cart, piled high with indistinct forms covered by tattered, stained canvas. A lone, masked figure walks beside it, slow and methodical, occasionally tugging at the rope tied to the skeletal horse. The collector's mask, a crude, bird-like beak, is a terrifying symbol of the plague itself, a harbinger of the inevitable. The cart rolls to a stop directly before the Red Cross door. The masked figure raises a hand, gripping a heavy iron mallet. With a dull, chilling thud, the mallet strikes the door, silence for a beat. Then, from within the marked house, a faint, desperate cough echoes, followed by a barely audible moan. The masked figure gives no visible reaction, only standing there, waiting, utterly devoid of emotion. They are simply doing their grim work. You feel a profound sense of horror, not just for the victims inside, but for the chilling indifference of the world outside, the brutal, mechanical nature of this final act. The plague's shadow falls long and cold, consuming all hope, leaving behind only the creaking of a cart and the toll of a bell. You realize that in the face of widespread calamity, humanity can become both incredibly resilient and disturbingly indifferent, stripping away the individual agony and leaving only the stark, horrifying numbers carried away on a creaking cart. A bone-deep cold immediately envelops you, far more profound than any winter chill you've known. It's a cold that feels ancient, that permeates your very marrow. The air is thick with the metallic tang of damp stone, the sour scent of stale straw, and a faint, unsettling hint of old blood. You feel the unyielding, rough texture of a stone wall pressing against your back, its surface clammy and unforgiving. Your bare feet are planted on a floor of uneven, icy flagstones, sending a jolt of pain through your arches. You are in a cell, small and suffocatingly cramped. The darkness is almost absolute, a crushing blackness that seems to absorb all light, all hope. Only a single, narrow slit high on the wall, barely wider than a hand, allows a sliver of weak, gray light to penetrate, illuminating nothing more than the dancing dust motes in its beam. This is an inquisitor's cell, you realize with a sudden, chilling certainty, a place designed to break the spirit before it breaks the body. The silence here is not empty. It's a living, breathing entity, heavy with unspoken suffering. It presses in on your ears, amplifying every tiny sound, the rapid beat of your own heart, the shallow rasp of your breath, the distant drip of water somewhere far away. You can almost feel the echoes of past cries, ancient agonies, lingering in the thick, still air. The sheer weight of the history within these stones is palpable. You try to move, to stand, but your limbs feel heavy, sluggish, as if weighted with lead. A dull ache throbs behind your eyes, a constant companion. Your fingers brush against something cold and unyielding on the floor. A rusted iron ring, fixed to the stone, the grim purpose of which sends a fresh wave of terror through you. You pull your hand back sharply, the image of chains flashing through your mind. From somewhere deeper within the stone structure, a muffled groan echoes, followed by a sharp crack, then a strangled sob. The sounds are faint, almost swallowed by the thick walls, but they are unmistakable. Another victim, another soul enduring the grim justice of the Inquisitor. You can feel the hairs on your arms rise, a cold dread creeping up your spine. The thought of what horrors are being enacted in the cells around you is almost unbearable, yet impossible to ignore. The darkness itself seems to watch you, to press in, revealing nothing but hinting at everything. The air is still, heavy, filled with the ghosts of questions asked and answers forced. You are alone, utterly, terrifyingly alone, in a place where solitude is a prelude to torment. The cold stone whispers its silent secrets, a testament to countless forgotten faces. You realize that in places of such profound suffering, the greatest terror isn't always the physical pain, but the psychological torture of anticipation, the absolute isolation, and the chilling echoes of those who came before. The bone-deep cold of the Inquisitor's cell still seizes you, but now the metallic tang of damp stone mixes with a sharp, smoky scent, acrid and biting. The echoes of distant groans have faded, replaced by a new, more immediate sound. The heavy clank of an iron bar being drawn back, followed by a grating squeal of old hinges. You feel the clammy, rough stone against your back, a permanent fixture in this oppressive darkness. Your bare feet are numb on the icy flagstones. A sliver of light, far brighter and more aggressive than the thin beam from the slit, suddenly floods a portion of the cell. It's the harsh, flickering glow of torchlight, held by a figure standing silhouetted in the doorway. You squint, your eyes burning from the sudden assault after the absolute darkness. The light casts long, dancing shadows that twist and writhe across the rough stone walls, making the cramped space feel even more distorted, more menacing. The air in the cell shifts, growing warmer, yet at the same time heavier, charged with an unsettling presence. You can feel the intense scrutiny of the figure in the doorway, a gaze that feels like it's piercing directly into your very soul. You try to shrink back, to disappear into the deeper shadows, but the wall is unyielding, and there's nowhere left to hide. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. The figure steps into the cell, a tall, imposing man cloaked in dark robes, his face severe, etched with an unwavering zeal. He holds the torch aloft, its flames casting a cruel light that highlights the grim purpose of the cell. He doesn't speak, not immediately. He simply looks at you, his eyes unblinking, unwavering. Filled with a terrifying certainty, you feel the full weight of his judgment, a silent condemnation that settles upon you like a shroud. Then he speaks, his voice a low, resonant rumble that seems to fill every corner of the small cell. His words are not questions, but accusations, pronouncements of heresy, of dark deeds, of a soul tainted by forbidden knowledge. You try to protest, to shake your head, to deny the terrible things he claims, but no sound escapes your parched throat. Your mind races, trying to comprehend the accusations, to find a defense, but his gaze pins you, paralyzes you. He speaks of a truth that must be cleansed, a truth that burns hotter than any fire. And as he speaks, his eyes fix on the rusted iron ring in the floor, then to your still shaking hands. The implication is stark, terrifying, inescapable. You realize with a sickening certainty that your words, your denials, mean nothing here. Only the truth he wishes to extract matters. A truth that will be forged in pain, confessed under duress, and finally, cleansed by the very flames he evokes. The air now tastes of fear, metallic and raw. You realize that in a world governed by rigid dogma and absolute power, personal truth means nothing. It is only the truth of the accuser, a narrative enforced by suffering that ultimately burns. A dull, sickening thud vibrates through the air, sending a jolt up through your very bones. It's the distinct, unmistakable sound of earth hitting something soft, something yielding. The smell of cold, damp soil fills your nostrils, thick and pervasive, mixed with the faint, unsettling sweetness of decaying leaves and something deeper, something metallic and strangely familiar. You feel the rough, crumbly texture of freshly disturbed dirt beneath your fingers, cold and clinging. You are lying prone on a desolate hillside, beneath a sky of swirling, bruised clouds that promise a heavy, impending storm. The last, dying light of the day paints the horizon in grim purples and grays, quickly fading into an oppressive darkness. The wind, a biting, relentless force, whips around you, tearing at your cloak and stinging your exposed skin with tiny pellets of grit and moisture. It carries the mournful, distant cries of unseen gulls, a desolate sound in this bleak landscape. The ground beneath you is uneven, a mix of rough grass and loose soil, saturated with an enduring dampness that seeps through your clothes. You try to push yourself up, but your muscles feel heavy, sluggish, a profound weariness clinging to your limbs. A metallic taste, like old copper, coats your tongue, and your throat feels raw, parched. Another dull thud. Closer this time. You force yourself to turn your head, your neck stiff and aching, straining your eyes against the encroaching gloom. Through the swirling mist and fading light, you see a lone figure, hunched over, working furiously. They are digging, or rather, they are filling. The rhythmic scraping of a shovel against loose earth is now clearly audible, followed by that grim, resonant thud as a shovelful of dirt is cast into a depression in the ground. A shallow grave, you realize with a sudden, horrifying clarity. Your blood runs cold. The figure, dressed in rough, dark clothes, works with a grim, almost desperate haste, their head bowed, their movements jerky and inefficient. They seem to be alone, their solitude amplifying the raw, unsettling act they perform. You can feel the intense cold of the wind biting at your exposed skin, but a deeper, internal chill grips you, a primal terror that clamps down on your chest. You can't see what they are burying, only the outline of the depression in the earth, too small, too hasty. But the profound sorrow and desperation radiating from the solitary figure is palpable. The scent of disturbed earth, fresh and raw, now mixes with a faint, cloying sweetness, a smell you've come to associate with irreversible endings. The rhythmic thud of earth becomes a grim countdown, each fall of soil burying not just a body, but a piece of unspoken humanity, a forgotten face in the growing darkness of this desolate place. You realize that sometimes the most poignant horrors are not those of grand, terrifying events, but the quiet, desperate acts of individuals, forced to bury their own sorrow in the indifferent earth, a testament to lives that pass unmourned and unremembered. The scent of cold, damp earth still clings to your nostrils, thick and pervasive, now mingling with a faint metallic tang like old iron. The relentless wind continues to buffet you, carrying the mournful cries of unseen gulls that seem to echo the desolation of this place. You feel the rough, unyielding soil beneath your fingers, gritty and cold against your skin. The profound chill of the hillside seems to seep into your very bones, a constant, gnawing presence. The lone figure, still hunched over the shallow grave, continues their grim work. The rhythmic scrape and thud of the shovel, a macabre soundtrack to the fading light. But as the last slivers of day vanish, replaced by the deep, oppressive blackness of night, a new detail emerges, illuminated by the cold, unforgiving moon that has just broken through the swirling clouds. The figure stops for a moment, straightening up with a pained grunt. They pull a crude sack from their belt, a tattered bag made of rough canvas. Then, with a chilling deliberation, they reach into the newly filled grave, their hand delving into the disturbed earth. You watch, transfixed and horrified, as they pull something out. Not bones, not a shroud, but something small, something metallic, that glints dully in the moonlight. It's a copper coin. Then another, and another. The figure carefully, almost reverently, places them into the sack. They are stealing from the dead. Not out of malice, you realize with a sickening jolt, but out of a desperate, agonizing need. The coins, placed on the eyes or in the mouths of the deceased to pay the ferryman in the afterlife, are being taken. It's an act of profound desperation, a desecration born not of disrespect, but of the cruelest kind of love. To feed the living. You can feel the raw, visceral pain radiating from the figure, their movements slow and heavy, burdened by the terrible choice they are making. Their head remains bowed, as if they cannot bear to look at the grave, or at the moon, or at any witness to their grim sacrament. The wind whips past, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, as if the very air itself mourns this cruel necessity. The taste of old copper on your tongue becomes sharper, a grim mirror of the stolen coins. As the figure finishes, securing the sack, they glance up, their eyes meeting yours across the desolate moonlit expanse. In that fleeting moment you see not malice or shame, but a profound, aching sorrow, a bottomless well of despair that speaks of hunger, of sickness, of other graves, of countless impossible choices made in the suffocating shadow of medieval survival. Then, with another heavy sigh, they turn and slowly, silently, disappear into the all-consuming darkness. You realize that in times of unimaginable scarcity, the line between reverence and necessity blurs, and the most horrifying acts are often born not of evil, but of an agonizing, desperate fight to keep a flicker of life alive, even if it means stealing from the forever silent. A harsh, metallic taste fills your mouth, like you've bitten down on a copper coin. It's the unmistakable taste of fear, sharp and acrid, clinging to your tongue. The air around you is thick with the sweet, musky scent of blood, fresh and potent, mixed with the earthy smell of damp straw and something else. A faint, almost sterile aroma of dried herbs. You feel the rough, uneven surface of a packed earth floor beneath your bare feet, cold and slightly damp. You are huddled in a small, cramped midwife's hut, the low, wattle and daub walls pressing in around you. The single tiny window is shuttered tight, plunging the room into near darkness, broken only by the flickering, guttering flame of a single tallow candle on a rough wooden table. Its weak light casts long, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink, twisting the humble furnishings into grotesque, fleeting shapes. The heat from a small, smoldering hearth in the corner barely penetrates the pervasive chill of the night. A low, guttural moan escapes someone nearby. A sound of profound pain and exhaustion, quickly stifled. Your breath hitches in your throat. You can hear the frantic, shallow breathing of several other people, huddled together in the dimness, their presence a palpable weight of shared anxiety. The silence between the moans and gasps is heavy, taut with anticipation, a silence that hums with unspoken dread. Then a sharp, piercing cry rings out, primal and raw, startling you to your very core. It's the sound of a woman, in the throes of agonizing labor. Your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic, desperate bird. You want to cover your ears, to block out the sounds of suffering, but your hands are trembling, clutched tight against your chest. A soft, wizened hand suddenly presses against your arm, a gesture of quiet warning. You flinch, then look up, straining your eyes in the candlelight. An old woman, her face a road map of wrinkles, her eyes dark and knowing, stares back at you. Her lips are pressed into a thin, grim line, and her gaze is fixed intently on the crude bed in the corner, where the woman's cries are now growing more frequent, more desperate. This is the midwife. Her very posture speaks of tension, of a fight against unseen forces. Another piercing shriek tears through the air, followed by a choked sob. Then, a sudden, horrifying gurgle. The air seems to thicken around you, heavy with the weight of unseen struggle, of a life fighting to be born, or perhaps fighting to simply survive. The metallic taste of fear intensifies, coating your entire mouth as the full, raw reality of medieval childbirth and its inherent dangers crashes over you. Every sound, every shadow feels charged with life or death stakes in the small, stifling space of the midwife's hut. You realize that sometimes the most visceral horrors aren't external monsters, but the raw, unadulterated vulnerability of new life struggling to emerge, a reminder of the thin, fragile thread that separates existence from oblivion. The sickeningly sweet scent of blood still permeates the air, a raw, primal odor that now mixes with the cloying sweetness of fresh milk and something else, something vaguely metallic, like a chilling premonition. The metallic taste of fear remains in your mouth, sharp and persistent. You feel the cold, rough earth floor beneath your bare feet, its dampness now less noticeable than the profound chill gripping your core. The tiny midwife's hut is shrouded in a tense, expectant silence. The guttering candle flame flickers wildly, casting grotesque, dancing shadows that seem to mock the stillness. The woman's agonizing cries have ceased, replaced by a series of weak, ragged gasps. Your heart pounds, a frantic drum against your ribs, anticipating the next sound. You can feel the collective breath of the other huddled figures around you, shallow and anxious, their eyes fixed on the bed. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible whimper breaks the silence. A tiny, fragile sound, a new life's first attempt at existence. A collective sigh of relief, audible and profound, washes through the room. But it's quickly stifled. The old midwife, her face etched with exhaustion, turns from the bed, holding something small and bundled in a clean, white linen cloth. It's a baby. You can see its tiny, wrinkled face, dark eyes wide and blinking against the dim light, its minuscule hands reaching out instinctively. But the relief is short-lived. The midwife's face, usually a picture of grim determination, now holds a deep, unsettling sorrow. She looks towards the other woman on the bed, whose gasps are growing weaker, more shallow. There's a silent exchange, a terrible understanding passing between them. One life has been given, but another is fading. A soul for a soul. The midwife then turns, her eyes, dark and knowing, meeting yours. In her gaze you see a silent plea, a desperate question. This is a choice, you realize with a horrifying jolt. In this brutal age, when the church looks away, when resources are scarce, a difficult decision often has to be made. A new mouth to feed, another burden in a world already struggling. You can feel the heavy weight of unspoken knowledge in the room, the grim reality of survival. The other people in the hut, faces grim and silent, offer no counsel, no comfort. They simply watch, their eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight and a profound, shared helplessness. The air feels heavy, thick with the weight of this agonizing, impossible decision. The baby whines again, a small, insistent sound, pulling at your heartstrings. You can almost feel the thin, fragile thread connecting these two lives, one arriving, one departing, and the terrible, unspoken choice that hovers between them. You realize that true horror isn't always the monstrous or the supernatural, but often resides in the agonizing, silent choices humanity is forced to make when existence itself becomes a zero-sum game, a desperate transaction of life for life, with no easy answers and no turning back. A profound, almost suffocating stillness descends, broken only by the faint, persistent smell of old parchment and beeswax, mingled with the heavy, sweet scent of incense that lingers in the air. You feel the rough, damp texture of ancient stone beneath your fingertips, cold and unyielding, covered in a thin layer of grime. The air itself is frigid, carrying a deep, penetrating chill that seems to burrow into your bones. You are standing in a long, echoing corridor within a medieval monastery, its towering stone walls stretching into an unseen darkness. The only light comes from a few widely spaced, flickering rushlights, casting weak, wavering pools of yellow that barely push back the encroaching shadows. The silence here is unlike any other. It's a hallowed quiet, profound and unnerving, broken only by the distant, rhythmic chanting of unseen monks from deeper within the complex. Their voices are a low, somber drone, a perpetual prayer that offers little comfort. Your breath catches in your throat. You listen, straining your ears beyond the distant chants, beyond your own frantic heartbeat. There's something else, faint, subtle, but undeniably present. a soft, scraping sound. It's coming from behind one of the heavy, bolted wooden doors that line the corridor. A scratching. Your blood runs cold. It's not the gentle scuttling of mice or the casual rub of fabric. This is a deliberate, rhythmic scrape, a persistent sound, like fingernails or claws dragging against raw wood. It begins softly, pauses, then resumes with a renewed, desperate intensity. The sound makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. You feel an immediate primal fear grip you, tightening your chest. You take an involuntary step back, pressing yourself against the cold stone wall, trying to make yourself invisible. Your eyes are fixed on the door from which the sound emanates, a heavy, dark slab of oak bound with iron bands. What could be behind it? A trapped animal? A desperate prisoner? Or something far, far worse, something that belongs in the shadowed corners of ancient folklore? The scraping grows slightly louder, more frantic, as if whatever is behind that door is reacting to your presence, or perhaps simply growing more desperate. The distant chanting of the monks, once a comforting rhythm, now sounds eerie, almost mocking, against the unsettling scratching. The sweet scent of incense, meant to purify, now feels cloying, sickly, a thin veil over something profoundly unholy. You are utterly alone in this hallowed, haunted corridor, a silent witness to a terror confined within stone yet desperately trying to claw its way out. The chill here isn't just from the air. It's the cold touch of a fear that speaks of forbidden things, of darkness contained, but not truly vanquished. You realize that even within the most sacred and supposedly protected spaces, terror can fester, silenced by walls and rituals, yet still desperately struggling to break free, a testament to the primal fear of what lies hidden. The cloying scent of incense and old parchment still hangs heavy in the frigid air, now mingled with a faint, metallic odor like rust or perhaps dried blood. You feel the unyielding, rough stone of the monastery wall pressing against your back, the cold seeping deeper into your core. The distant, rhythmic chanting of the monks has faded, replaced by an eerie, profound silence that amplifies every subtle sound. The persistent scratching from behind the heavy oak door has ceased. You stand frozen, your breath held, straining your ears in the absolute stillness. Your heart thumps a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a desperate drum in the hallowed quiet. The rushlights cast long, wavering shadows, making the corridor feel endless, menacing. Then, a low, guttural moan escapes from behind the door, a sound of profound pain and anguish, quickly choked off. It's followed by a soft, almost imperceptible rustle, like dry cloth rubbing against stone. Your blood runs cold. This isn't an animal, this is human. A single, heavy sigh then filters through the thick wood, a sound of utter despair that chills you to your very soul. It's a breath laden with years of torment, of unspoken regret. You take an involuntary step closer to the door, compelled by a morbid curiosity, by the sheer weight of suffering contained within. You press your ear to the rough wood, feeling the cold, grainy surface against your cheek. And then you hear it, a low, ragged whisper, a confession not meant for living ears, a litany of sins mumbled in Latin, barely audible, fractured by gasps and choked sobs. It's a monk's voice, you realize with a jolt, hoarse and broken, racked with agony. He speaks of forbidden texts, of dark rites, of a secret pact made long ago, hidden deep within these very walls. He speaks of a penance, self-imposed, a life lived in a confined space, clawing at the stone, tormented by visions, haunted by his unconfessed sin. The metallic scent intensifies, mixing with the damp stone, hinting at blood drawn from raw, desperate fingers. You can almost feel the presence of the monk within, a ghost of a man, his mind and body consumed by his transgressions. The monastic silence, once a symbol of peace, now feels like a prison, a silent witness to a soul eternally tortured. You can practically see him, hunched in the darkness, his body ravaged, his fingers raw from scratching, forever trying to carve out an escape from his own conscience, or perhaps from something far more ancient that he awakened. You realize that the heaviest chains are often those forged by guilt and regret, binding a soul not to physical walls, but to the inescapable torment of its own unconfessed sins, a chilling testament to the self-inflicted horrors that burn hotter than any external flame. A raw, earthy smell, thick with the metallic tang of old blood and freshly hewn wood, assaults your senses, instantly making your stomach clench. You feel the rough, splintered surface of a heavy wooden block against your cheek, its ancient grain digging into your skin, a jarring contrast to the unnatural smoothness of your neck that rests against it. The air is cold, sharp, and carries a profound, chilling silence. You are kneeling, your knees pressing hard against cold, uneven cobblestones. Your hands are bound tightly behind your back, the rough rope biting into your wrists, cutting off circulation. A dull ache throbs in your head, and your limbs feel heavy, sluggish, as if weighted with lead. You are at the very center of a bustling market square, though the usual vibrant noise is replaced by a hushed, anticipatory quiet, a collective breath held. Your eyes, still struggling to adjust to the dim gray light of a dawn that refuses to break fully, scan the surroundings. Tall, grim-faced buildings loom around the square, their windows like vacant, staring eyes. A sparse, bundled crowd has gathered, their faces indistinct in the pre-dawn gloom, their silence more terrifying than any shouts. You can feel their collective gaze, a heavy weight of morbid curiosity and cold judgment, pressing down upon you. A low, guttural murmur drifts through the crowd, quickly shushed by the grim-faced guards standing at the edges of the square. You can hear the distant, mournful tolling of a church bell, a solemn, slow dong, dong, that seems to mark the inexorable passage of time, counting down the seconds to an inevitable end. The sound is a chilling premonition. You try to move your head, to lift your gaze from the rough wood, but an unseen force presses you down, holding you firmly in place. You feel the cold, heavy weight of an unseen hand on the back of your head, steadying you. A prickle of cold sweat breaks out on your skin. The scent of blood and wood intensifies, a visceral, undeniable reality. A deep shadow falls over you, blocking the last vestiges of the gray light. You hear a soft, almost imperceptible swish of fabric, then a metallic rasp, dull and heavy. It's the executioner, you realize with a sickening lurch, standing directly behind you. You can almost feel the presence of his axe, a cold, gleaming promise of oblivion. The silence of the crowd deepens, becoming absolute. Every muscle in your body tenses, coiled and rigid, bracing for the inevitable. The rough splinter of the executioner's block presses harder against your cheek, a final, unyielding embrace. You realize that in the face of such stark finality, the body's primal scream is not of protest, but of a profound, agonizing stillness, a desperate attempt to grasp at the very last fleeting moment of existence before the darkness claims everything. The raw, metallic tang of old blood and fresh wood fills your nostrils, sharp and acrid, now mixed with the pungent scent of fear that seems to emanate from the hushed crowd. The rough splinter of the executioner's block digs deeper into your cheek, a final, cold touch before oblivion. You feel the heavy, unyielding weight of the unseen hand still pressing against the back of your head, holding you firm, relentless. The air is cold, but your skin is slick with a sudden clammy sweat. The mournful tolling of the church bell continues. Each dong, dong, a hammer blow against the fragile shield of your composure, marking the last seconds of your existence. Your heart, which had been a frantic drum, now seems to beat slower, heavier, with a profound, terrifying certainty. You are acutely aware of the rough texture of the cobblestones against your kneeling knees, the bite of the rope on your wrists, the chill of the pre-dawn air against your exposed skin. Every sensation is magnified, sharp and unbearable, as if your senses are making a final, desperate attempt to record everything. A sudden, sharp intake of breath ripples through the crowd, a collective gasp that rises and swells, growing louder, turning into a low, guttural roar. It's a primal sound, a blend of anticipation, horror, and a strange, savage satisfaction. The sound crashes over you, deafening, overwhelming. You feel the vibrations of their voices in the very ground beneath you, a physical manifestation of their morbid presence. They are here for this. They are waiting. Then, for a fleeting, agonizing second, everything intensifies. The roar peaks, a crescendo of raw human sound. You feel a subtle shift, a heavy, silent presence behind you. The metallic scent of blood seems to deepen, to grow stronger, almost palpable. The air itself feels taut, stretched to its breaking point. You brace yourself, every muscle in your body rigid, awaiting the inevitable. And then, a sudden, brutal, deafening silence. It crashes down upon the square, absolute and terrifying, heavier than any sound could ever be. The roar of the crowd vanishes instantly, replaced by an emptiness that swallows all noise, all sensation. The mournful toll of the bell is gone. The wind's whisper is gone. Even your own frantic heartbeat seems to vanish, replaced by a profound, endless void. The cold, heavy presence on the back of your head is gone. The pressure of the block against your cheek, the bite of the rope on your wrists, all gone. There is only the silence. A silence so complete, so utter, that it feels like the very fabric of existence has torn, leaving nothing but an echoing, formless emptiness. It is the silence that follows the ultimate finality, the silence of a life extinguished, of a moment ended, leaving behind only the profound, chilling absence of everything. You realize that the most terrifying sound is not a roar of fear, but the absolute crushing silence that follows, a void that swallows all trace of existence and leaves only the chilling understanding of oblivion. A faint, cloying scent of stale milk and damp earth hangs heavy in the air, oddly mixed with a subtle, acrid undertone like cold ash. You feel the rough, worn wood of a crude wooden chair beneath you, its surface smooth from countless years of use, yet still retaining a faint chill. The air in the small, cramped room is still, heavy, and carries a profound sense of unease. You are sitting in a dimly lit, humble cottage, its wattle and daub walls cracked and stained. The only light comes from a small, sputtering fire in a stone hearth, its orange glow barely pushing back the encroaching shadows. The fire casts dancing, grotesque silhouettes on the rough walls, making the small space feel even more claustrophobic. The silence here is thick, expectant, broken only by the soft, rhythmic ticking of an unseen woodworm in the beams above. A low, mournful sniffle draws your attention. You look across the small, worn room. There, on a simple straw pallet on the floor, lies a bundled infant. Its face is small, pale, almost translucent in the flickering firelight. Its eyes, however, are what sees you. They are impossibly large, dark, and utterly devoid of the innocent wonder you expect from a child. Instead, they hold a chilling, unsettling intelligence, an ancient wisdom that seems to peer directly into your soul. This is no ordinary child, you realize with a sickening jolt. This is a changeling. A young woman, her face pale and streaked with tears, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow, sits beside the infant. Her body is slumped, defeated, her gaze fixed on the small, unsettling face. She rocks slowly, back and forth, a low, wordless lament escaping her lips. You can feel her profound despair, her terror, radiating outwards like a chill from the hearth. She knows. You can see it in the way she shrinks slightly from the infant's unnatural gaze. The changeling child turns its head, slowly, deliberately. Its enormous, dark eyes fix on you, boring into you with an intensity that makes your blood run cold. There's no blink, no childish curiosity, only a deep, ancient gaze that seems to peel back layers of your own being, exposing raw nerves. A tiny, almost imperceptible curl of its lips might be a smile, or perhaps something far more sinister. The air around you feels suddenly colder, charged with a malevolent presence. You want to look away, to break the unsettling gaze, but you are transfixed, paralyzed by the sheer wrongness of it. The faint, acrid smell of cold ash seems to grow stronger, hinting at something unnatural, something otherworldly. The rhythmic ticking of the woodworm in the beams suddenly sounds like a frantic countdown. The changeling's gaze holds you, promises secrets, and warns of a darkness that wears the innocent face of a child. You realize that true horror isn't always found in obvious monsters, but in the subtle, unsettling perversion of the familiar, a chilling reminder that not all innocence is truly innocent, and sometimes the deepest darkness lurks behind the most unexpected eyes. The lingering scent of stale milk and cold ash still hangs in the air, a cloying reminder of the changeling's presence. You feel the familiar rough wood of the chair beneath you, but its coldness now feels hollow, reflecting the emptiness that has suddenly permeated the small cottage. The air is still, heavy, but the profound unease from before has deepened into a chilling sense of loss. The fire in the hearth sputters, casting its erratic orange glow across the room. Its light dances on the rough walls, but now illuminates an unbearable absence. The straw pallet where the changeling lay is empty. The coarse linen cloth, once a swaddling blanket, lies rumpled and discarded, a silent testament to a departure. The young woman, the mother, is gone too, vanished from her place by the hearth. The rhythmic ticking of the woodworm in the beams above seems to have paused, as if holding its breath in the face of this profound silence. You glance around the small, cramped room, your eyes searching, desperate for a logical explanation, for any sign of movement, any hint of what transpired. But there is nothing. Just the flickering firelight, the encroaching shadows, and the overwhelming, palpable sense of an abrupt, unnatural disappearance. The wooden cradle by the hearth, usually a symbol of hope and new life, now sits empty, cold and stark, a gaping void where warmth and innocence should have been. A cold breeze suddenly ghosts through the unlatched cottage door, causing the candle flame to dance wildly, then extinguish itself with a soft hiss. Plunged into near darkness, only the meager light from the dying embers in the hearth remains, painting the room in shades of deep orange and black. The chill that enters with the breeze is more than just external. It's a profound internal cold, a sense of deep, chilling dread. You rise slowly from the chair, your limbs stiff and heavy, drawn by an irresistible, terrible curiosity to the empty pallet. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold matted straw. There's no warmth, no indentation, no lingering scent of a child. It's as if the infant was never truly there, a cruel illusion spirited away by unseen hands. The emptiness of the cradle, stark against the flickering firelight, speaks volumes of a life stolen, a child lost to the dark whims of the hidden folk. The silence now feels heavier, more ominous, pregnant with untold secrets. You realize that some losses are not accompanied by tears or fanfare, but by a profound, chilling emptiness. A quiet vanishing that leaves behind only a lingering sense of wrongness, and the stark, cold evidence of a cradle by the fire, forever vacant. A choking, acrid stench immediately assaults your senses, a metallic, sulfurous odor that burns in your nostrils and stings the back of your throat. It's the unmistakable smell of forbidden chemistry, of volatile elements reacting in ways they shouldn't. You feel the rough, cold surface of a stone floor beneath your feet, slick with an unseen residue. The air itself is thick, heavy, and strangely warm, yet carries a pervasive, unsettling chill that defies the heat. You are standing in a hidden chamber, deep beneath an unknown structure. The walls are rough-hewn stone, gleaming faintly with moisture, their surfaces blackened in places by smoke and unknown spills. The only light comes from a multitude of bubbling beakers, glowing retorts, and flickering alchemical furnaces, casting an eerie, phosphorescent glow of greens, blues, and lurid reds across the cramped space. The air shimmers with heat and strange, luminescent fumes that rise in twisting plumes, making it difficult to breathe. A low, incessant hiss and gurgle fills the air, the symphony of unnatural reactions taking place all around you. It's punctuated by the soft clinking of glass, the dull thud of heavy weights, and the occasional unsettling pop from one of the furnaces. You can feel the vibrations of machinery through the floor, a constant low thrum that makes your teeth ache. The very atmosphere hums with a dangerous, unstable energy. Your eyes, stinging from the acrid fumes, dart around the chaotic laboratory. Tables groan under the weight of ancient tomes, strange tools, and raw, unsettling ingredients. dried herbs, preserved animal parts, vials of shimmering liquids, and mysterious gleaming minerals. Every surface is covered, every corner filled with the tools of an obsessed, secretive craft. A figure is hunched over a central alchemical table, their back to you. They are cloaked in dark, heavy robes, their head bent low over a bubbling crucible, their movements precise, almost ritualistic. You can feel the intense concentration emanating from them, a laser-like focus that seems to ignore everything else in the room. The air around them is thick with the most potent of the fumes, a swirling miasma that obscures their full form. As you watch, transfixed and terrified, the figure carefully pours a shimmering, viscous liquid from a small, crystal vial into the bubbling crucible. The reaction is immediate and violent. The liquid within erupts in a shower of emerald sparks, hissing and spitting, casting a momentary, blinding flash of green light that illuminates the alchemist's shadowed face. Their eyes, wide and unnaturally bright, burn with an almost insane zeal, a frightening blend of genius and desperation. The smell of burning chemicals intensifies, choking you. You can almost taste the danger in the air, a metallic tang of forbidden knowledge on the edge of explosion. You realize that true terror isn't always found in the darkness of ignorance, but in the blinding, dangerous light of forbidden knowledge, pursued with an obsession that threatens to unravel the very fabric of existence. The acrid, metallic stench of volatile chemicals and burning sulfur still chokes you, burning in your nostrils and stinging your eyes. It's now mingling with a faint, unsettling sweetness, like decaying flowers, a strange contrast to the harshness. You feel the cold, slick residue of unknown substances beneath your bare feet, adhering slightly to your skin. The air remains thick, hot, and heavy with strange, luminescent fumes. The alchemist, his face momentarily revealed in a flash of emerald light, returns to his hunched posture over the crucible, his movements now more frenetic, driven by a palpable, dangerous excitement. The symphony of bubbling, hissing, and gurgling chemicals intensifies, reaching a fever pitch, punctuated by the frantic clinking of glass as he grabs more vials, more powders. The very chamber seems to vibrate with the sheer, unstable energy he conjures. Your eyes, stinging and watering, dart around the chaotic laboratory, trying to make sense of the new additions to his table. Amidst the ancient tomes and gleaming instruments, you now spot something else, something deeply, profoundly disturbing. Small, crudely carved wooden effigies, each one wrapped in what appears to be human hair and fingernail clippings, tied with thin, dried sinew. And then, a small, polished silver basin, filled with a viscous, dark liquid that seems to pulse faintly in the eerie light. Your stomach clenches, a wave of nausea washing over you. The alchemist begins to mutter, his voice a low, raspy incantation, a string of archaic words you don't understand, yet they thrum with a dark, primal power. He lifts one of the effigies, holding it above the bubbling crucible, and with a swift, brutal motion, crushes it in his gloved hand. A fine, gray powder drifts into the crucible, and the liquid within flares violently, emitting a piercing, high-pitched whine that seems to pierce your very eardrums. As the sound slowly fades, a new sight emerges from the churning liquid in the crucible. Tiny, glimmering flecks. Gold. You can see it. Unmistakable, shimmering with a malevolent brilliance. The alchemist lets out a low, triumphant cackle, a sound utterly devoid of joy, filled instead with a chilling, unhinged madness. He has found his philosopher's stone, you realize, with a sickening dread, but not through base metals. He is transmuting gold from souls. The sweet, decaying smell intensifies, now accompanied by a faint, almost ghostly whisper that seems to echo from the very walls, a chorus of ethereal cries. The alchemist turns his head slightly, his unnaturally bright eyes, wide and manic, fixing on you once more. His lips pull back in a grotesque, bloodless grin, and a silent, terrifying question hangs in the air, a silent invitation to participate in his unholy alchemy. The room, once a sanctuary of forbidden knowledge, is now a forge of stolen souls, burning with the madness of his terrible ambition. You realize that the thirst for forbidden power, when unchecked, can lead to a madness that utterly distorts morality, transforming the very essence of human life into a mere ingredient in a horrifying, desperate quest for earthly gain. A sudden, piercing cold grips you, far deeper than the bite of winter. It's accompanied by the sharp, earthy scent of damp soil and decaying leaves, but now a subtle, musky odor underlies it, vaguely animalistic and deeply unsettling. You feel the rough, corrugated bark of a towering, ancient tree pressing into your back, its surface slick with unseen moisture. The air is still, heavy, and laden with a profound, watchful silence. You are standing in the deepest part of the village woods, where the ancient trees grow so thick their skeletal branches interlace, forming a dense, impenetrable canopy. Only slivers of a cold, indifferent moonlight manage to pierce through, casting fractured, shifting patterns on the forest floor. The ground beneath your feet is a spongy carpet of fallen leaves and moss, silencing your every tentative movement. Shadows stretch and writhe, making every familiar shape monstrous. A low, guttural murmur drifts on the wind, a sound that raises the hairs on your arms. It's the murmur of anxious, hushed voices from somewhere distant, the unmistakable sound of villagers huddled together, their fear a palpable presence carried on the cold air. You strain your ears, trying to catch their words, but they are lost to the wind and the rustling of leaves. Then it comes, a sound that rips through the night, echoing through the vast, silent expanse of the woods. A howl, long, drawn out, agonizing. It's like a wolf, but utterly wrong. Too deep, too human, filled with a raw, visceral torment that sends a shiver of ice straight down your spine. Your blood runs cold, your breath hitches. This is a sound that speaks of pain, yes, but also of rage, of something fundamentally unnatural, something that should not exist in these quiet woods. You press yourself harder against the rough bark of the tree, trying to become one with the shadows, willing yourself invisible. Your eyes dart frantically, desperately, through the oppressive gloom, trying to pinpoint the source of that unholy sound. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, now feels like an ominous approach. The musky scent intensifies, cloying and sickening. The howl rises again, even closer this time, a primal scream of both beast and man, tearing at the fabric of the silent night. It echoes, bounces off the ancient trees, reverberating deep in your chest. You can almost feel the vibrations of its sheer power. The moonlight, once indifferent, now seems to mock you, illuminating just enough of the menacing silhouettes to deepen your sense of vulnerability, but never enough to show you the monster that lurks. The cold in the air is now a physical weight, pressing down on you, stifling any impulse to flee. You realize that some sounds are not just heard, but felt, vibrating through your very soul, marking the thin, terrifying line where the familiar world ends and the primal, monstrous reality begins. The musky, animalistic odor now hangs thick and hot in the air, a primal stench that prickles your nostrils and tastes metallic on your tongue. The biting cold of the winter night seems to press in, amplifying the profound sense of dread that has settled deep in your chest. You feel the rough, unyielding bark of the ancient tree digging into your back, its cold presence a meager comfort against the terror. The unholy howl has just faded, its raw, visceral torment still vibrating in the silent air. Your breath hitches, held captive by a profound, paralyzing fear. You can hear the distant, muffled cries of the villagers, now sharper, more frantic, their terror a palpable wave carried on the wind. The forest, once a place of relative familiarity, has become a labyrinth of unseen horrors, every shadow a potential threat. Then, a sudden heavy crash erupts from the undergrowth, followed by a frantic thrashing and a pained human scream. It's close. Too close. Your heart leaps into your throat, a frantic, desperate bird. You force yourself to look, to pierce the oppressive gloom that saturates the woods. Through the shifting, fractured moonlight, you see movement. A hulking, distorted silhouette, far too large and unnaturally agile. It drags something heavy, something limp, deeper into the tangled thicket. Your eyes strain, fighting against the darkness, against your own fear, desperate to make sense of the monstrous shape. And then, a sliver of direct moonlight slices through the canopy, illuminating the creature for a horrific, agonizing second. It's a man. Or what used to be a man. His face is contorted, twisted into a mask of bestial rage and hunger, his eyes glowing with an unholy feral light. His clothes are torn, his skin matted with grime and something dark, something wet. But beneath the monstrous transformation, you recognize him. You know his face. It's Thomas, the miller's son, a man you've known since childhood, a gentle, quiet soul. The realization crashes over you with the force of a physical blow, a terror far deeper than any monstrous revelation. The beast wears a neighbor's face. The musky, animalistic odor is Thomas's. The unholy howl, Thomas's tortured cry. He lets out another low, guttural growl, then tears at the limp form he drags, the sickening sound of flesh ripping, echoing through the silent woods. You press yourself harder against the rough bark, willing yourself to disappear, to vanish entirely. Your stomach churns, threatening to spill its contents. This is not some distant monster, some mythical horror from old wives' tales. This is a perversion of the familiar, a betrayal of humanity, a nightmare made flesh, born of the very community you call your own. The absolute terror of seeing the familiar transformed into the monstrous, of knowing that the beast is not just in the shadows but wears a face you once knew, is a cold, indelible brand on your soul. You realize that the most profound horrors are not just about fear, but about the terrifying corruption of trust, the shattering of the familiar, and the chilling truth that sometimes the monster staring back at you used to be a face you knew. A deep, penetrating cold immediately seizes you, A damp, pervasive chill that seems to cling to every inch of your skin, seeping into your very bones. The air is thick with the smell of wet stone, stagnant water, and a faint, cloying mustiness, like old decay. You feel the rough, slick surface of a stone floor beneath your hands and knees, its surface unnervingly cold and slimy. You are in absolute, suffocating darkness. It presses in on you, a crushing weight that seems to absorb all light, all sound, all hope. This is an oubliette, you realize with a horrifying certainty. A forgotten prison, a dungeon designed to be a tomb for the living, where prisoners were lowered through a hatch and left to rot, to be forgotten. The heavy masonry walls loom invisibly around you, silent, indifferent sentinels. The silence here is not empty. It's a living, breathing entity, heavy with unspoken suffering. It presses in on your ears, amplifying every tiny sound, the ragged beat of your own heart, the shallow rasp of your breath. And then it begins, a relentless, maddening sound. Drip, drip, drip. The constant drip of water, somewhere close, echoing with an unnerving resonance in the close confines. Each drop is a hammer blow, a perverse clock marking the slow, agonizing passage of time. Your breath catches in your throat. You try to move, to crawl, to escape the maddening rhythm, but your limbs feel heavy, sluggish, a profound weariness clinging to your muscles. A metallic taste, like old iron, coats your tongue, and your throat feels raw, parched. You press your hands against the cold, slimy floor, desperate to find your bearings, to understand the shape of your prison, but there is only endless, unyielding stone. The incessant drip, drip, drip slowly begins to warp your perception. Each drop sounds like a whisper, then a distant scream, then the gentle tap of tiny, unseen fingers. Your mind races, trying to find meaning in the rhythm, trying to cling to some semblance of sanity. The cold, damp air wraps around you like a shroud, and the musty smell intensifies, hinting at generations of forgotten souls who met their end in this very same suffocating darkness, listening to the very same maddening drip. You instinctively pull your cloak tighter around you, a futile gesture against the penetrating cold and the profound, absolute isolation. The endless darkness presses in, and the constant drip, drip, drip becomes a relentless, inescapable companion, an auditory torture designed to break the mind long before the body gives out. You are not just in a prison. You are in a tomb where time is measured by the falling of a single, solitary drop. You realize that true horror isn't always found in sudden violence, but in the slow, agonizing descent into madness, where the simplest, most mundane sound becomes a relentless torment, a constant reminder of an inescapable, forgotten end. The incessant drip, drip, drip of water is no longer just a sound. It's a relentless pulse, vibrating deep within your skull, marking an agonizing eternity. The overwhelming cold, dampness, and musty smell of decay have become an unyielding part of you, a constant physical torment. You feel the rough, slimy stone beneath your hands, its icy grip a perpetual reminder of your prison. The absolute darkness is no longer just the absence of light. It's a living, breathing entity, pressing in on your eyes, clouding your thoughts. You try to conjure an image, Any image of light, of warmth, of the world beyond this crushing tomb. But your mind struggles. The memory of the sun, its comforting heat on your skin, the vivid spectrum of colors, the open sky, it all feels distant, impossible, like a dream from another life. You are forgetting what it feels like to be truly warm, truly seen. Your throat is raw, parched, a constant ache that even the mental image of water cannot quench. Your limbs ache with a profound, bone-deep weariness, a fatigue that comes not from exertion, but from endless, stagnant confinement. The metallic taste of old iron in your mouth is a bitter, constant companion. You are losing track of time, of days, of nights. The drip, drip, drip is the only clock, and it offers no answers, only torment. You try to focus, to reach out with your senses beyond the maddening drip. You press your ear against the cold, unyielding stone wall, straining to hear anything else, any sound that might connect you to the living world above. But there is nothing, only the echoing drip, the frantic beat of your own heart, and the shallow rasp of your breath. The silence between the drops feels vast, an endless, mocking void. A desperate, primal urge to scream rises within you, a need to tear through the silence, to break the monotony, to announce your continued existence. But the scream dies in your throat, stifled by the crushing weight of the darkness, by the knowledge that no one is listening, that no one remembers. You are forgotten. An oubliette. The very name is a sentence to oblivion. You find yourself pressing your hand against your own arm, trying to recall the feeling of warmth, of sunlight, of skin that isn't cold and clammy. But the memory is fading, blurring at the edges, replaced by the relentless cold, the damp, and the eternal night of this forgotten place. The concept of up or down becomes meaningless. There is only, here, in the crushing darkness, with the maddening drip, drip, drip. You realize that the most insidious form of horror is not physical pain or sudden death, but the slow, agonizing erosion of memory, of self, and the terrifying process of truly forgetting what it means to be alive, to be connected to the world, to feel the sun on your skin. A cold, bitter taste coats your tongue, heavy and cloying, like stale ash and unconfessed secrets. It's quickly followed by a strange, earthy smell of dry bread and something metallic, like old pennies, mixed with the faint, sweet scent of decay. You feel the rough, uneven texture of hard-packed earth beneath your worn boots, cold and unyielding, scattered with a sparse, frost-nipped grass. You are standing at the edge of a hushed, sorrowful gathering, a small circle of villagers huddled around a crude wooden coffin. The sky above is a heavy, overcast gray, bleeding the last vestiges of daylight, plunging the world into a somber twilight. The air is still, heavy, and carries a profound, unsettling silence, broken only by the mournful sniffles of the mourners and the distant, lonely caw of a crow. A profound sense of discomfort settles over you. The villagers avoid eye contact. Their gaze is fixed on the coffin, or on the ground, or anywhere but on the strange, solitary figure standing at the head of the deceased. This is a funeral, but it's unlike any you've ever witnessed. There are no priests, no blessings, only a palpable aura of fear and desperation. Then, your eyes fix on the figure. He is tall, gaunt, dressed in tattered, black garments, his face obscured by a deep hood. This is the Sin Eater, His presence is a spectral one, an unwelcome necessity. You can feel the collective unease of the villagers, their subtle shivers, their reluctance to be too close to him, or to the grim ritual about to unfold. The sin-eater slowly reaches into a small leather pouch at his waist. He produces a piece of dark, coarse bread, roughly torn. He places it gently on the chest of the deceased, a woman, her face pale and still in the open coffin. Then, he places a pinch of salt on the bread. You can feel the tension in the air, a silent intake of breath from the gathered mourners. He begins to murmur, his voice a low, raspy incantation, a string of archaic words spoken over the dead. You can't discern the meaning, but the tone is solemn, heavy with an ancient, forbidden purpose. He is speaking to the sins of the departed, drawing them forth, transferring them. The air around him seems to thicken, to grow heavier, as if absorbing an unseen weight. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he picks up the bread. He lifts it to his mouth. You watch, transfixed and horrified, as he bites into it. The heavy taste of the sin-eater's bread seems to fill your own mouth, thick and acrid, bitter with the implied weight of the dead woman's transgressions. It is a taste that speaks of sorrow, of guilt, of the burdens carried in life, now transferred in this grim, archaic ritual. The silence of the mourners is absolute, their faces a mix of horror, relief, and profound, unsettling awe. You realize that some burdens are so heavy, some sins so profound, that they require a living vessel to carry them into the afterlife, a chilling testament to humanity's desperate attempts to cleanse itself, even at the cost of another soul. The lingering, bitter taste of the sin-eater's bread still coats your tongue, heavy and acrid like ash mixed with a profound sorrow. The metallic scent of old pennies and decay still hangs in the frigid air, now mingled with the earthy smell of freshly disturbed soil as the gravediggers begin their work. You feel the cold, damp earth beneath your worn boots, its uneven surface shifting slightly with the activity. The sin-eater, his face still shrouded by his hood, slowly chews the bread, his movements deliberate, almost agonizing. You can feel the profound weight of what he is consuming, a burden far greater than simple sustenance. The gathered villagers watch him in a hushed, reverent silence, their faces a mixture of relief, fear, and a subtle, disturbing disgust. Their eyes dart from the sin-eater to the now closed coffin, as if witnessing a miracle or a terrible sacrifice. When he finishes, he swallows, a visible effort that seems to rack his entire gaunt frame. A shudder runs through his body, a silent tremor, as if he is absorbing not just bread but the very essence of damnation. He closes his eyes for a long moment, a profound weariness settling over him, deeper than any physical fatigue. You can almost feel the weight of a stranger's sins, now his, pressing down upon him. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the eldest of the mourners, a wizened old man with watery eyes, steps forward. He approaches the sin-eater cautiously, almost fearfully, extending a single, tarnished copper coin. It's a meager payment, a pittance for such an unimaginable service. You watch, transfixed, as the sin-eater slowly, almost reluctantly, reaches out and takes the coin. His fingers, thin and pale, close around it, the copper dull in the fading light. There's no gratitude in his posture, no relief, only a profound, unending resignation. He pockets the coin, his movement devoid of fanfare. A simple transaction for a life of spiritual torment. He then turns his back to the mourners and begins to shuffle away, his footsteps heavy and slow on the hard-packed earth. He doesn't look back. The villagers watch him go, their faces slowly softening with a grim relief, the burden of their departed sins now, they believe, lifted. As he disappears into the encroaching darkness, a profound silence falls over the graveyard, a silence heavier than any grief. Only the quiet scraping of shovels as the grave is filled remains. You are left with the lingering taste of the sin-eater's bread, the metallic tang of the coin, and the chilling realization of the price paid for salvation, a price borne by a forgotten, solitary figure condemned to consume a stranger's damnation, one bite at a time. You realize that true mercy sometimes demands an unbearable sacrifice, and that the quiet, unacknowledged suffering of one can be the only salvation for many, a haunting testament to the darkest bargains made for spiritual peace. A stale, sour taste of watered-down ale immediately coats your tongue, bitter and unappetizing, leaving a harsh film on your palate. It's accompanied by the overwhelming smell of spilled beer, unwashed bodies, and cheap tobacco, all mingling with the acrid scent of old wood smoke. You feel the rough, splintered edge of a heavy oak table digging into your forearms, its surface sticky with grime and spilled drinks. The air in the room is thick, warm, and heavy with the clamor of drunken conversation. You are crammed into a bustling, raucous tavern, its low, timbered ceiling barely visible through the haze of smoke and flickering tallow lamps. The room is loud, filled with the boisterous laughter of farmers, the coarse jokes of merchants, and the clatter of tankards on wooden tables. Your back is pressed against a cold stone wall, offering a sliver of respite from the press of bodies. The floor beneath your worn boots is uneven, littered with rushes and the occasional stray bone. A sudden, sharp jab in your ribs makes you flinch. You turn your head, your eyes stinging from the smoke. A large, brutish man, his face flushed with ale, grins menacingly, his breath foul. He laughs, then shoves you harder, turning his attention back to his companions. You feel a prickle of fear, a familiar tightening in your stomach. Violence here is always just beneath the surface. Then, a new sound cuts through the din, almost imperceptible amidst the chaos. A low, urgent whisper, right next to your ear. The Lord's man, he knows. Your blood runs cold. You tense, every nerve ending screaming. You don't recognize the voice, yet the words are clear, precise, and utterly terrifying. A traitor's whisper, a betrayal. You try to turn your head, to catch a glimpse of the speaker, but the press of bodies is too dense, the smoke too thick. You feel a brief brush against your arm, a fleeting touch, and then nothing. Just the continued roar of the tavern, the clatter, the shouts, all suddenly seeming far more sinister, far more dangerous. The stale taste of ale on your tongue morphs into a bitter metallic tang of pure dread. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drum against the impending threat. You search the crowd, your eyes darting from face to face, trying to find any sign, any recognition, any hint of who might have delivered such a chilling warning. But all you see are drunken revelers, their faces blurred by smoke and shadow, indistinguishable, unknowable. The threat is unseen, unheard by any but you. The ale, meant to dull the senses, now sharpens them to an agonizing degree, making every laugh, every shout, feel like a personal attack. You realize that in a world teeming with anonymous faces, danger often arrives not with a fanfare, but with a quiet, insidious whisper, a subtle shift in the air, reminding you that betrayal can lurk in the most unexpected corners, and that the illusion of safety is always fragile. The stale, sour taste of watered-down ale still coats your tongue, now bitter with a fresh wave of dread. The air, thick with the smell of spilled beer and unwashed bodies, suddenly feels colder, heavier, charged with unspoken menace. You feel the rough, splintered oak table digging into your forearms, its grime now almost a comfort, a familiar anchor in a world suddenly turned hostile. The clamor of the tavern, once a backdrop, now feels like a cage, its noise a dangerous cloak. The traitor's whisper, the Lord's man, he knows, echoes in your mind, sharp and chilling. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, desperate drumbeat. You scan the crowded tavern again, your eyes darting from face to face, trying to pierce the smoke and shadow, desperate to identify the source of the warning, to find any sign of the Lord's man. But the faces are a blur, distorted by drink and gloom, each one a potential enemy, each one a potential accomplice. A group of burly men, their cloaks dark and heavy, suddenly push their way through the crowd, their movements deliberate, forceful. Their expressions are grim, their eyes sharp, constantly sweeping the room. They are not here for ale. You feel an immediate, primal tightening in your stomach. The air around them seems to hum with an unspoken authority, a dangerous, palpable threat. The usual boisterous noise of the tavern seems to dim, hushed by their presence, replaced by a nervous, expectant quiet. They stop near a table in a particularly shadowy corner, where three figures are hunched together, their voices low and intense. As the dark-cloaked men approach, one of the figures at the table, a man with a scarred face, looks up, his eyes wide with a flicker of panic. He quickly tries to gather something from the table, a rolled piece of parchment, but his hands tremble, betraying him. One of the dark-cloaked men, clearly their leader, a man with a cruel, thin mouth, steps forward. He says nothing, simply extends a hand, pointing a gloved finger at the parchment. The scarred man hesitates, his eyes darting frantically around the room, meeting no sympathy, no help. He is caught. You can almost taste the betrayal, the fear, the desperation emanating from their corner. The air thickens with tension, the silence of the tavern broken only by the crackle of the hearth and the muffled, nervous coughs of onlookers. The Lord's man has indeed found what he was looking for. The parchment, passed over with a trembling hand, reveals a crude drawing, a map, no doubt of a hidden passage or a planned ambush. Treason, spoken and enacted, in the shadows of a low-lit tavern. You feel a profound cold settle in your gut, not just from the chill in the air, but from the chilling understanding of how easily lives can be shattered by whispers and shadows. You realize that in a world where trust is a fragile commodity, the true horror lies not in monstrous threats, but in the insidious betrayal of man by man, where shadows hold more danger than any light, and a single whisper can ignite a firestorm of ruin. A sharp, metallic taste, like old rust, coats your tongue, bitter and persistent, a chilling companion to the acrid smell of unwashed bodies and burning pitch. You feel the rough, heavy iron of thick chains digging into your wrists and ankles, their cold, unyielding weight a constant, painful pressure. The air is cold, brisk, and carries the low, rhythmic murmur of a vast, angry crowd. You are being dragged, slowly and inexorably, through the muddy, cobbled streets of a medieval town. Your bare feet scrape and stumble on the uneven ground, jarring your already aching bones. The sky above is a heavy, overcast gray, bleeding the last vestiges of weak daylight, casting a grim pall over the entire procession. It is a heretic's procession, you realize with a sickening jolt, a public display of condemnation. The rhythmic clanking and scraping of the chains on the cobblestones is loud, amplified by the heavy silence that falls over the crowd as you pass. Their murmur grows into a low, guttural roar, punctuated by shouts of, "Heretic!" and "Blasphemer!" You can feel their collective gaze, a searing weight of hatred, fear, and righteous fury, pressing down upon you. Stones, small and sharp, occasionally strike your back and legs, stinging and bruising. You try to lift your head, to meet their eyes, but your neck feels stiff, heavy, and the weight of the chains pulls you forward, forcing your gaze to the muddy ground. Your vision blurs from the constant movement and the dull ache behind your eyes. Your mouth is dry, parched, a metallic tang of fear, a permanent fixture. Around you, stern-faced guards, clad in heavy leather and steel, march with grim efficiency, their spears held upright, forming a menacing perimeter. They ignore the shouts, the stones, the anguish of the accused. Their faces are unreadable masks, their focus unwavering. Behind them, a group of robed figures, their faces severe and shadowed, follow with solemn, deliberate steps, their voices chanting in low, monotonous Latin. It is a chant of damnation, a prayer of condemnation. The weight of the chains, both physical and metaphorical, presses down, crushing. Each step is an agonizing effort, each metallic clank a reminder of your inescapable fate. The smell of burning pitch grows stronger, hinting at the gruesome end awaiting you. The air feels charged with the crowd's righteous anger, their fervent belief in your guilt, their hunger for retribution. You are no longer just a person. You are a symbol, a vessel for their fears and their unwavering faith, being dragged towards a truth that burns hotter than any fire. You realize that the weight of an entire society's judgment, fueled by fear and dogma, can be a burden far heavier than any iron chain, dragging one towards an inevitable, terrifying end. The metallic taste of old rust and unwashed bodies still clings to your tongue, now sharp and acrid, burning with the overwhelming scent of burning pitch. The heavy iron chains bite deeper into your wrists and ankles, their cold weight a constant, agonizing pressure. You feel the rough, splintered wood of a massive stake against your back, its immovable presence, a chilling anchor in a world turned to fire. The air is thick, hot, and vibrates with the roar of a vast, enraged crowd. You are at the center of the town square, bound tightly to the stake, your bare feet planted on a mound of dry kindling. The last vestiges of gray daylight have completely vanished, swallowed by the oppressive blackness of night, illuminated now only by the flickering, growing inferno around you. The rhythmic chanting of the robed figures has grown louder, more fervent, a powerful, condemning chorus of Latin. The crowd's roar is deafening, a monstrous wave of human sound that crashes over you, filled with a primal mix of hatred, fear, and a terrifying shared ecstasy. They surge forward, pressing against the line of grim-faced guards, their faces contorted into grotesque masks of rage and righteous fury, illuminated by the flickering flames. You can feel the heat of the fire growing, licking at your exposed skin, a searing caress that promises inevitable agony. Stones, mud, and refuse rain down on you, stinging and bruising, each impact fueling the crowd's fervor. You try to gasp for air, but the smoke, thick and acrid, fills your lungs, making you cough, a weak, pathetic sound swallowed by the roar. Your eyes, stinging from the smoke and tears, scan the sea of faces, searching for any flicker of compassion, any sign of dissent, but there is nothing. Only the hungry gaze of judgment, of righteous conviction. Then, a wave of liquid, cold and oily, splashes over you. Pitch. The smell intensifies, cloying and sickening. A torch, held by one of the robed figures, extends towards the kindling at your feet. For a horrifying, agonizing second, everything intensifies. The roar peaks, the heat becomes unbearable, and the air around you seems to crackle with the energy of 1,000 condemning souls. And then the flames catch. With a whoosh and a crackle, the fire erupts, consuming the kindling, licking upwards, engulfing you in a searing embrace. The roar of the crowd reaches a fever pitch, a collective gasp of horrifying, triumphant catharsis. It's a sound of release, of satisfaction, of a shared damnation, as if your burning purifies their very souls. You feel the heat, the searing agony, but even through the pain, you perceive the profound, terrifying joy in their eyes, a joy born of fear purged, of order restored, of a communal cleansing. You realize that collective fear can be a powerful, destructive force, capable of dehumanizing an individual and transforming their suffering into a shared, terrifying catharsis, a chilling testament to humanity's darkest capacity for both terror and conviction. A cloying, sweet smell of stale incense and old wax assaults your senses, almost thick enough to taste, mingling with the musty odor of ancient dust. You feel the rough, worn wood of a church pew beneath your hands, its surface smooth from countless years of prayer, yet retaining a faint, unsettling chill. The air is cold, still, and carries the low, rhythmic murmur of hushed prayers. You are kneeling in a dimly lit, ancient cathedral, its towering stone arches disappearing into a profound, oppressive darkness overhead. The only illumination comes from a multitude of flickering votive candles and the weak, wavering light filtering through stained glass windows, painting the floor in muted, spectral colors. The air hums with a deep, resonant silence, broken only by the distant, solemn chanting of a choir and the occasional cough from the sparse congregation. A persistent, uncomfortable itch prickles at the back of your neck. You glance around, your eyes darting through the gloom, trying to find the source. But there is nothing. Just the flickering candles, the cold stone, and the profound, almost suffocating atmosphere of reverence. The weight of centuries of faith, of hope, and of desperate pleas seems to press down on you, palpable and overwhelming. Then, your gaze falls upon a small, gilded reliquary, positioned prominently on an altar, surrounded by a cluster of particularly fervent worshippers. Inside, nestled on a velvet cushion, is a single discolored bone fragment. It's supposed to be a relic, a piece of a saint, a conduit to divine power. You can feel the collective, desperate belief radiating from the worshippers, their eyes fixed on the bone, their hands clasped in fervent prayer. But something about it feels wrong. The aura that emanates from it, supposedly holy, feels false. There's a faint, almost imperceptible metallic tang in the air around the reliquary, like old tarnished silver, not the clean scent of sanctity. And the bone itself, though ancient, has an unsettling, almost too perfect smoothness, a lack of the natural imperfections you'd expect from something genuinely old and organic. It carries a subtle, almost unnoticeable chill, despite the heat of the many candles around it. As you stare, a fleeting image flashes through your mind, a crude, small animal bone, perhaps from a pig, carefully filed and bleached. The thought is instantaneous, shocking. This isn't a holy relic, it's a counterfeit, a deception, meticulously crafted, placed here to exploit the desperate faith of the devoted. The cloying smell of incense suddenly feels like a cover-up, the hushed prayers a tragic waste. The weight of reverence in the air transforms into a heavy, sickening understanding of fraud. You realize that in a world clinging desperately to hope, the most insidious horror isn't always overt evil, but the quiet, calculated deception that preys on faith, leaving behind not just disappointment, but a profound, chilling emptiness in the hearts of those who believed. The cloying, sweet smell of stale incense and old wax now feels sickening, a thin veneer over a deeper, more unsettling aroma, a faint, earthy scent of grave robbing, of disturbed soil and ancient decay. You feel the rough, worn wood of the church pew beneath your hands, its cold surface a stark contrast to the burning indignation that now flares within you. The air in the cathedral is still, heavy and thick, with the unspoken fraud. The rhythmic murmur of prayers from the congregation continues, a soft, hypnotic drone, utterly oblivious to the deception unfolding before them. You watch, transfixed, as a solemn-faced priest, his robes pristine and his voice smooth with practiced reverence, approaches the reliquary. He gestures to the bone fragment within, his movements slow, deliberate, each gesture steeped in manufactured sanctity. He speaks of miracles, of blessings, of the divine intercession granted by this holy relic. His voice, amplified by the cavernous acoustics of the cathedral, fills the sacred space, resonating with a conviction that feels utterly false. You can feel the fervent belief of the worshippers, their eyes wide with awe, their hands clasped tight in desperate hope. They are hanging on his every word, clinging to the promise of salvation. As he speaks, an acolyte moves through the aisles, carrying a velvet bag. The rustle of coins, faint but distinct, punctuates the priest's soaring words. Donations. Offerings for the saint, for the church, for the promise of healing, of forgiveness, of a passage to heaven. Each clink of metal against fabric feels like a fresh betrayal, a hollow sound against the backdrop of their desperate faith. The metallic tang in the air, you realize, isn't just from tarnished silver. It's the bitter taste of commerce in a place meant for the divine. You watch as an elderly woman, her face etched with worry and age, fumbles in her purse, extracting a single small copper coin. Her hand trembles as she places it in the velvet bag, her eyes lifted to the false relic, her lips moving in a silent, fervent prayer for her sick child, or perhaps for a lost husband. Her hope is palpable, vulnerable, and being ruthlessly exploited. The scent of disturbed earth and decay now feels stronger, almost accusatory, a silent condemnation of the transaction. The priest concludes his sermon, his voice ringing with triumph, a beatific smile gracing his lips. He offers a blessing, and the congregation, deeply moved, responds with a fervent Amen. As they rise, a subtle movement catches your eye. The acolyte, moving swiftly, carefully removes the reliquary from the altar, carrying it away into the deeper shadows of the cathedral, no doubt to be secured, and perhaps to be cleaned, prepared for the next wave of desperate souls. You are left with the lingering smell of grave robbing, the bitter taste of false salvation, and the chilling realization that some horrors are not born of monsters, but of the cold, calculated exploitation of human faith, selling hope that smells suspiciously like the dirt from a forgotten tomb. You realize that in a world where hope is a precious commodity, the most profound betrayal isn't a physical wound, but the spiritual exploitation of belief, leaving behind a chilling testament to the unseen crimes committed in the name of salvation. A profound, bone-deep weariness settles over you, a fatigue that seems to seep into your very soul. The air is cold, damp, and carries a faint, metallic tang like old iron, mingled with the bitter scent of wood smoke and a lingering, indescribable trace of sorrow. You feel the cold, rough texture of a stone wall beneath your hand, its surface slick with unseen moisture. The silence is not empty, but heavy, thick with the echoes of every horror you've witnessed. You are standing on a deserted battlements, high above a medieval town. The sky above is a desolate, endless gray, the first slivers of dawn barely visible on the distant horizon, painting the world in muted, somber tones. It's a dawn like any other, yet it feels profoundly different, washed in a pervasive, chilling fear. The wind, a biting, relentless force, whips around you, tearing at your clothes and carrying with it the faint, mournful cries of unseen gulls. The town below is a sprawling tapestry of timber and thatch, but it is unnervingly quiet. No bustling market sounds, no distant cries of children, no rousing rooster. Only a profound, heavy silence, broken only by the distant rhythmic tolling of a church bell, a sound now associated with both mourning and warning. The weight of every crime, every horror, every forgotten face you've encountered seems to press down on you, a palpable burden. You lean against the cold stone, your limbs heavy, your mind a kaleidoscope of grim images. The stench of snuffed tallow and sewers, the howl in the woods, the sizzle of flesh, the silence after the executioner's axe, the emptiness of a cradle. Each memory is a sharp, painful prick. The metallic tang in the air intensifies, a taste of fear that has permeated every corner of this brutal world. Your eyes sweep across the dormant town, searching for any sign of life, any flicker of hope in the monotonous gray light. But all you see are closed doors, shuttered windows, and chimney stacks sending up only faint wisps of smoke, as if the very act of living has become a furtive, dangerous enterprise. The gray dawn offers no comfort, no promise of brighter days. Instead, it feels like a continuation, a stretching out of the long, dark night. merely swapping the terrors of absolute darkness for the stark, unforgiving visibility of a world steeped in fear. The silence deepens, becoming a vast, indifferent canvas. The cold seeps deeper, a reminder of the fragility of life, the harshness of existence, and the ever-present shadow of darkness. The distant bell tolls again, a final mournful dirge. You realize that sometimes the true horror isn't the monsters that lurk in the dark, but the dawning of a new day that offers no respite, a world forever altered, washed in the lingering, pervasive fear of what has been and what will inevitably come again. The bone-deep weariness still clings to you, a profound exhaustion that seems to have permeated every fiber of your being. The air, though no longer thick with smoke or decay, still carries a faint, lingering metallic tang, a memory of fear. You feel the familiar, comforting coolness of smooth, polished wood beneath your hand, a stark contrast to the rough stone and cold earth of moments ago. The air is clean, fresh, and surprisingly warm. You are sitting in a comfortable armchair in a softly lit, modern room. The distant, rhythmic hum of unseen machinery replaces the tolling bells and frantic heartbeats. The world outside is no longer shrouded in medieval gloom, but illuminated by the soft, diffused light of a contemporary afternoon. You glance around, your eyes slowly adjusting to the unfamiliar comforts. Books on shelves, a soft blanket, a steaming mug of tea on a nearby table. This is the present. This is now. Yet, the chill of the forgotten past still pricks at your skin. The faint metallic taste of fear, the lingering scent of smoke and decay, the phantom bite of cold chains. They all remain, etched into your senses, whispering from the edges of your awareness. The memories of medieval crimes, of haunted Halloweens, of the forgotten faces of darkness, vivid and raw, still replay in your mind, a haunting reel of terror and sorrow. You try to take a deep, calming breath, but the weight of those experiences, of those countless lives lived and lost in the brutal darkness of 1347, feels heavy, a burden you now carry. The shift in time, in comfort, in safety, is jarring, almost disorienting. The stark contrast between that world and this one is immense, yet you feel an undeniable connection, a thread of shared humanity, woven through the tapestry of time. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the warm ceramic mug. The simple sensation is profound, grounding you, yet the ghosts of snuffed tallow and open sewers still haunt the corners of your mind. The sounds of modern life, a distant car, a faint conversation, are muffled, almost irrelevant, against the echoes of watchmen's calls and the roar of a condemning crowd. The terror of the past is not gone. It has merely transformed, residing now within you, a silent, unsettling companion. You realize that while centuries may separate us from the Dark Ages, the primal fears, the brutal choices, and the forgotten faces of humanity's past are never truly gone. They linger, not as external monsters, but as a chilling whisper within our collective consciousness. Medieval ghosts that we carry, sometimes unknowingly, into the modern light.